Hey guys, so let's start with the prop. So we need UV information for light baking inside of Unreal Engine. So now we'll see what are good UVs and what are the things we should follow and what are the things we should avoid. So I have here a floor. I have two cubes. So I'll just click on this floor. I'll go to UV editor, and you can see I'll just turn on the texture maps. So now we have here the UV checkerbox. So you can see in simple words, these checkerbox are very small. So the more smaller the checkerbox will be, the more detailed we can get textures baked onto. Okay, so in this case, that will be the shadow maps, what we are going to bake on this floor. Okay, so for example, UV shell, if I scale this smaller, so you can see the checkerbox sizes are increasing. So the more big size of the checkerbox will be, the less resolution can be baked. So it will be very pixelated. So for example, you can see these pixels over here. So it will be more and more pixelated. So this is just an example what I'm saying. Okay, after baking the shadow maps, how it might look if the checkerbox are too big. So that's why we can go to layout. We can set the map size to 1K, which is more than enough. And I'll just click on layout. Okay, now we'll see the cube map. So here I have set a cube where you can see the UV shell is way too small, so you can see the checker box. And here is a cube where we have a good checker box. So now what we shouldn't do is, I'll just click on create automatic. Then I'll go to shells. So this is something called as overlapping UVs. So this is something we should avoid. So for example, if you can see here, this is one UV shell, and you can see there are more UV shells beneath this. So this is something we should avoid. Why? Because now the texture which is baked on this bottom face will be baked on all the faces. So it will give us some weird results. So we need all the map baking should happen on different UV shells. So that's why we keep our UV shells something like this. This is also fine, but this is what Maya will give us default. So this is just a single UV shell. So yeah, so let's go to, I'll just duplicate this floor, and I'll make the UV shell a little small so that we can see the difference between the UV shell which has more checker counts and which has less checker counts. So we can see the difference. Okay, so now we are inside of Unreal Engine. So let's see the project settings. So edit project settings. Then here we'll type static lighting. So we can turn on this as well as this, allow static lighting and use normal maps for static lighting. So this is not that important, but sometimes it might be useful. So just now let's type illumination. So this we have here global illumination. We are going to keep this to screen space. Then we'll type in reflection. And now here we have this to lumen. We'll click here and we'll go to screen space. So for mobile, we can use this one, mobile PPR exclusive. So for you have to restart, and then I think we have to type in nanite. Disable this. I'll restart this later and show you a few more settings. So then we'll drag and drop our mesh that we have exported from Maya. So here you have to type nanite, and you have to uncheck this box. So now let's drag and drop our props inside this scene. Just group this. So now we can click on lit. We'll go to optimization view modes and we'll click on this light map density, or you can just press alt 0. So now you can see we have here different colors for the mesh, and we'll just select all these three props. We'll type here map, and then when you click on this Overridden Light Map Res. So now you can see we have the UV maps here. So I'll just turn on the flow too as well. Let's keep this here. And I'll repeat the same step. So now you can see inside of Maya, I kept this floor map UV map very small, so that you can see now we have a huge checkerbox here and we have small checkerbox here. So it depends upon your modeling software how you have kept arranged your UV shells. So similarly, you can see over here we have this. So I'll just duplicate these cubes and I'll place it over here. Now you can see here we do not have, this is the floor which we get by default by Unreal Engine. So if your map if your mesh doesn't have any UV maps, that means you cannot bake anything onto that mesh. So we'll just delete this. So we have this now. Now if you click on your mesh and if you go to Overridden Light Map Resolution, you can type in 128 or something like that, and you can see the checker boxes are getting smaller. This is one method where you can increase the resolution of your mesh. So if you increase this like to like 1K, 2K, so it will take too much time to bake your mesh. So it's better to keep a good UV inside of your modeling software. I'll just go back to 64. And now let us see some of the settings that we need. So before that, we'll just add in, I'll just change light direction. So now we go to direction light, we'll click on static. We can increase the intensity to 150, make this 250. Okay, so now you can see we have here preview. So if you see, okay, so now we'll go to skylight, we'll scroll down, we'll click static, we'll scroll down and make the intensity scale to 2. We go to world settings, light mass, we will make the static light level scale 2.1, bounces to 10 and 10. Now we'll add a post-process volume. So this is when you need some like post-process effects. So here, I'll just keep this to infinity. So here, so if you haven't changed the settings inside of project, so you can change settings over here, which is global illumination. So currently this is unchecked, so you can check this and you can change the settings similar to what we have done in the project. So already we have done it, so we are not going to change it over here. If you want, you can change the exposure and all, but for now we'll just keep this as like default. So we need something which is called as Lightmass importance volume. So this is what we have. I'll just drag and drop this here. And I'll scale this. So this will be the bounding box inside of which the light will be baked. So I'll just scale this and now everything is done. Now we can go to build. We can go to light quality. I've kept it to production. So we'll just click on build all levels. So now you can see that the light map has been baked over here because we have a good resolution on this floor and we do not have it on this floor. So now we'll just increase the map resolution onto this floor. We'll make it 2512 and we'll bake it again. So now you can see here we have the shadow baked onto the floor and here we have it too. Okay, so this is the basics of light baking. Okay, so now if you see the resolution of this is higher than compared to this. The UV checkerbox are much smaller on this cube compared to this one. But still, if you see, the shadows are similar. So it won't affect what cube resolutions you have, the mesh which are going to. So the thing is, your floor should have a good resolution. We can see the shadows has been baked. And now if you see the shadow quality of this cube, which is emitting from this cube and this cube, is like similar, but you can see the map resolution of both of them are different. This is way higher, the checker box is like very small, and the checker box on this is like very big. But still, if we see the shadows baked onto this floor are similar, so it won't affect if you have a good UVs like onto the mesh from which the light, which the mesh which is blocking the light. So it's important to have a good resolution onto the mesh on which you're going to bake the shadows. So for example, here we have the shadow, we want the shadow to fall on the floor, right? So that's why the UVs checker box should be small enough and good enough to capture those data. So this the it will be baked onto this mesh. It's with the texture information of shadow baking will be on this floor. So that's why we need a good UV on the floor, on the mesh on which the shadows will are going to bake. So this is just the basics of light baking inside of Unreal Engine. Thank you.